with Sarah.
Okay.
Okay. In 5, 4. Well, good morning. I am here with the legendary Sarah Walker, and we're here to talk a little bit about a combination of crime and safety, specifically downtown, as well as police accountability. We've got the resident expert on some of these topics here, Sarah Walker.
Well, Jacob, I'm really excited to be here, and as you know, criminal justice and police reform have been big areas of passion. So I was interested to see that in your platform that you just released, that one of the key tenets of it was increasing police, which I'm just curious how you came to that decision.
Absolutely. You know, I believe that you have safety and police accountability are intrinsically linked. These are not mutually exclusive concepts. In fact, they work together towards building public trust. You won't get public trust unless you have safety, and you certainly won't get public trust unless you have police accountability and reform, and we need both. Now, in order to get there, it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, you know, we do need more officers. Fewer officers means that the interactions on the street are more terse. It means they're potentially more aggressive. It means that you've just got cops running from 911 call to 911 call, and they never have the opportunity to develop these critical relationships. If we want police officers to develop better relationships with the community, we need more of them so we can narrow the beat, have them engage with the small local business owner, have them engage with the community, and then ultimately keep people safe. And this works the same way as the teacher and student relationship. You know, fewer teachers means that class sizes are larger, means that student interactions with teachers aren't as good. And similarly with officers. Fewer officers means they've got these huge beats. They never have the opportunity to build out the relationship. And it does have a negative impact on both accountability as well as safety.
Yes, and I just read an article that the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office actually put some of their own officers in downtown for public safety reasons.
That's exactly right. You know, we want to have some accountability for the officers that are patrolling downtown. We aren't able to control that if it's all Hennepin County officers. So let's get some additional MPD officers on the beat. Let's make sure that we know what beats that they're carrying, and it's a consistent time and it's a consistent schedule. You know, I want you to know that your officer on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. is Jenny. I want you to know her by name. I want you to know where her beat is. And when you have that narrow beat and you know where they are, that actually improves accountability. Right now, you know, we don't have that because we're not even controlling the officers. There are a lot of them right in Hennepin County.
And then I'm just curious because, you know, one of the things I hear the most and I care a lot about is diversifying the police force.
Yeah. And I think it goes without saying again, but I'll say it anyway. You won't get more cops of color unless we hire more cops of color. And a big part of that is increasing the size of the force, so that we have more MPD officers. If you look at what happened over at Metro Transit, they actually dramatically increased the number of cops of color on their force. And how did they do that? They hired them. They hired more officers, and it's working. In fact, I think they've gotten awards for it.
They have.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, so we now talked about the increase in the number of police officers, but there were other tenets in your proposal. So could you elaborate on some of those?
Yeah, so last night we put out this 8.5 block plan specifically on downtown crime and safety. And yes, one of the tenets was increasing the number of officers on narrowed beats in that 8.5 block area, specifically downtown. But in addition to that, there's several other pieces too. You know, one, we want eyes on the street. But eyes on the street don't do any good if it's a dark street, because you can't see anything. So we need to make sure that areas are well lit. So we need to make some public works improvements in that area. Vacant lots are ripe for criminal activity and are ripe for not having a whole lot going on and for things going badly. And so let's make sure that we've got both community-minded development as well as green space on these lots. It's been shown to work several times over. So there's a couple of the big ones. The third one is guns, which I had not mentioned yet, but it's, you know, we know that there are a very high number of illegally trafficked guns coming from Chicago, and we need a better way of both identifying them as well as tracking them, because some of these guns are, like a single gun is being used for several different incidents.
Yeah, I've read a lot that the gun violence prevention effort is often thwarted because the cops there aren't enough cops to actually track the guns down because they're short-staffed.
That's right. Like, I am someone who strongly believes in gun reform. It is not helpful when you have guns that are illegally trafficked into downtown Minneapolis, into North Minneapolis, into all areas of our city in someone's trunk. And we need to push back on that, but right now, if our police officers don't have the time to do this investigatory work, then they're not going to get to the bottom of it. We're not going to get our guns off the streets, and that's something we need to be doing.
Yeah, and given the tragic events that have occurred involving involved shootings, how does this interact? We've been talking so much about reform, so how does this interact with the reform plan you laid out earlier?
Well, again, it is intrinsically linked. We need police accountability. We need reform. We need to shift the culture of our department. And yes, we need additional safety measures too. And I absolutely reject the notion that these two concepts are mutually exclusive. They are not. And I'll lay out a few policies that we have already put in our policy on police reform. First, I believe that officers should have to exhaust all reasonable alternatives before they resort to deadly force.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it again. It sounds like common sense, but sometimes it's not really understood fully. We need officers to exhaust all reasonable alternatives before they resort to deadly force. Second, I want to have a rebuttable presumption of misconduct if the police officer fails to turn on the body camera and then something bad happens. So in other words, if you don't turn on the body camera and then somebody gets hurt and they shouldn't have, there should be an initial presumption that there was misconduct involved. So the end conclusion for these officers should be turn on the damn body camera. Turn on the body camera. We need to know what happens. A body camera policy doesn't do any good if our officers aren't turning on the cameras to begin with. And we know from an audit that just took place, about 30% of them aren't turning the body cameras on.
Well, and so what about, I also noticed you had some innovative things, and I was really happy that you were forward-thinking, thinking about things like bail.
Yes, we need to push back on, we have a system in place right now that puts people who have gotten caught or not gotten caught or just alleged to have done something wrong in a really difficult financial position. And it doesn't need to be the case. There does need to be significant bail reform in our city. And you know what, we need to take steps in that direction.
Well, I'm excited about your plan, and I've always believed that criminal justice reform goes hand in hand with good public safety.
It does.
So thank you.
It does. Thank you.